Hello viewer, part 3, welcome back. Part 3 of the ash collection. Still using the same big old lump of wood that I showed you in the first part of this. Now we've done a couple of bowls. Next thing we're going to try and do a goblet. Now this won't be a very big goblet because the plank of wood was only like 2 inches thick anyway. So it'll be quite a small item, but it'll give you some idea of what you can do. So I've got this piece and it is approximately 9 inches long and it's 2 by 2 inches or 50mm by 50mm. There's a little, I've marked a little circle, so that's the maximum size the goblet will be. Probably be a little bit smaller than that once I've turned it down. But so I've marked the centres. I'm going to mount it in between the centres on the lathe and turn it around, and we'll take it from there. And hopefully we'll end up with something that looks pretty much like a goblet. So to start with, just find the centre. You can either go corner to corner. That usually finds the centre. And I'll just give it a little knot. I've got an old bit here and I'll just use that just to put a little bit of a dimple in it. It's just easier to locate then in between the centres. Right, of course we've got the grain running from end to end. I'm going to use we'll start off knocking the corners off with the old spindle roughing gouge. You've probably got one of these in your set. If you haven't, don't worry, use your scraper or whatever you want. Make sure you're not touching the rest, but you're as close as you can get to it. And give it a go. And so on until you get it nice and round. Right, once you've got it nicely rounded to a cylinder, you need to put a tenon on the one end. Now I'm going to just use the skew chisel for this because I want that shoulder angle that I explained in the last video. So if you go in straight, you'll get that angle, that undercut, for the tenon to fit in the jaws nice and safe. And that's it. You can see a nice angle on there now, so the jaws should clamp round it nice and tight. So the next thing to do is get the chuck on and mount it in the jaws of the chuck. Drill in, drill to the depth you want. It just gives you a bit of a centre to go at when you're hollowing out. Makes it a bit easier. So just drill down. Let me measure that. I'm going down 45mm. Right, now you can start hollowing out. Get your tool rest nice and close. Now, because this piece is so long, just adjust that a bit. It's a long way from the chuck to where you're working, so don't be any rush. You've got to take this nice and gently with a nice sharp tool. I'm going to use a spindle gouge for now and see how I get on with that. And might use a smaller one, but take your time because the last thing you want is this jumping out. Don't stand right over it, stand to one end. Obviously you can see what you're doing, plus it's a lot safer if this decides to fly off. Okay, I'll get my trusty spindle gouge, and away we go, nice and gently. You've got to think of it as a very small bowl really. You're doing exactly the same as what you did on the bowls. It's just in a much more confined space. So you haven't got so much movement. So you might want to tilt it round this way and go from centre to the outside. Whichever way suits you best, just have a practice. But don't be in any rush whatsoever. Like I say, it vibrates, it'll come out. If you haven't got a steady rest, I have got a steady rest, but I'm not going to use it on this because that's not the purpose of the exercise. Right, I shall carry on and get back to you in a bit. Right, I'm nearly at where I want to be now. Just using very gentle scrapes with the spindle gouge, and I'm going to finish it off with the half round, or round nose scraper I should say. Don't know, I've dropped the camera down a bit. I don't know if this will pick it up to show you how deep. I've got a bit of extra light here. Just zoom in a bit. So you can see the hole still there. So I've got to go that little bit deeper. But it's not a bad little cup, that isn't at the moment. There's a few ridges in it, but they'll go. So I'm just going to, a few more scrapes with the spindle gouge, and then onto the round nose scraper. That noise you can hear is actually my tailstock vibrating. I'll have to lock it off. Right, that's got rid of the ridges up the side. I'll just carry on with the scraper now. So this isn't the easiest of jobs, but it's well worth having a go at, well worth having a practice. There's some beautiful goblets on YouTube. I keep referring back to him, but Mike Waltz, he's done some amazing goblets. He's known as the Goblet King, and you want to have a look at his channel because he does some really nice ones. But this is just going to be a nice plain one. I hope it's nice anyway. And be very careful, so don't dig in. Go very gently, because you're using there's a lot of gap between the tool rest and the point. Hold it very firmly. And just carry on until that little hole that you drilled disappears, then you know you're at the right depth. Right, I've finally got that as deep as I want to go. I'll get the light on it. You can see there's still a few tiny little ridges, but I can soon scrape those out. And the main thing is the little hole's gone at the bottom. So you get rid of your ridges, so very fine scrapes. And if you're not too confident, you'll have to do a bit of extra sanding, which is what I usually end up doing on these things. But it is time consuming, but it's worth it if it works out in the end. I haven't gone too thin because I've still got a bit of shaping to do, so I've left quite a bit, about 5-6 mil edge on it. But that's the hollowing done. So the next thing to do is get rid of your little grooves, sand it out inside. It's only a small space, so be careful. Just a small pieces of sandpaper, and the usual thing really. Start off as rough as you can and end up as smooth as you can. So I'll get on with the sanding, which is very boring, and then I'll start putting some shape on the outside. Now when you've got the bowl of the goblet as you want it, as you're happy with, sanding sealer and polish it. Finish the inside of the bowl off while you've still got plenty of strength along here. The last thing you want is when you've got the stem and then think, oh, I haven't polished this, and you start wobbling around and it can break. So do it while there's still plenty of meat down here. So finish the actual inside of the bowl off totally. Right, when you've done your polishing of the bowl, you need your tailstock. Now, as you can see, I've stuffed a load of kitchen towel in there and brought the tailstock up to give it stability. The ideal thing is a lot of people use an old tennis ball. Anything that you can put on the end without harming the wood, it'll keep it stable. Now you can start having a bit of fun and shaping your actual goblet how you want it. So here we go. I think I'll start off with a scraper. As you can see, that's keeping it nice and stable, there's no wobble on it. So use your scraper, use your spindle gauge, whatever you're happy with. Best now to think about how long you want your stem to be. This isn't a very wide goblet, it's slightly under the 2-inch mark. So if the bowl's going to end about there, maybe a stem about that long, and then flaring out to the base about there. So the goblet itself should end up being roughly 6 inches. I might take it a little bit longer. You can also start thinking about what shape you want it. Do you want a little bead on it, or do you just want it plain? Your imagination, that's all you need. Doesn't matter how you do it, what shape you do it, if you put little ridges in it. Just let your thoughts run away with you and have a bit of fun. You've done the hard bit, which is hollowing it out. Now when you've got your basic shape that you're satisfied with, then you can tweak it up, whatever you want. It's best to just decide how long you're going to have it and put your parting cut in there so you can work to that then. I think I'll go about there. Not gone too far down because I want to keep the strength there as long as possible, but now I know where to work to, so I can make the stem a bit longer still and thin it out a bit. Doesn't matter if it's thick or thin. Whenever you feel you've had enough, stop. But it's worth trying to get it down and put a bit of shape on it, you know, maybe. It's entirely up to you, like I say, let your imagination run wild. Now when you're doing this, the thinner you go, the more vibration you're going to start getting. So don't be tempted to dig your tool in too much, just very fine cuts. As you get thinner, take lighter cuts and just get whatever shape you want then. I think that's about as thin as I want to go on this now. It just needs scraping very gently. I'm going to use a skew chisel for it. And I don't know whether to actually get rid of this bit here because the ash is a bit brittle. It depends if I can get a finish on the edge. If not, I should just take it smooth. That seems to have worked. So I'm just going to smooth it off now. Again, you're just using such gentle cuts here now. You don't want to put any pressure on it at all because it'll just bend and start vibrating, and it could end up just breaking. I've just finished off the sanding process now. That's come really nice, very smooth. So now 2 coats of sanding sealant, a couple of coats of polish, and then I'll part it off. You can do this with the lathe spinning slowly, but you can't necessarily see that you've got it absolutely everywhere. These tiny little nooks and crannies. Now I've done this quite a plain looking goblet. So the limitations are endless. You can put fancy stems on them, you can put captive rings on them, you can do the bowl any shape you like. You can do it this shape, you can do it like a brandy glass shape, a champagne flute, anything you like. The main thing is the hollowing out. If you can do that, so treat it like a delicate little bowl, and you should be okay. Now I'll give it another coat of sanding sealant and then some wood wax. Right, so just put a coat of polish on this wood wax 22. I always seem to use this. It's a good all-rounder. Okay, one more coat and then I'll part it off and show you the finished item. Just before I switch off again, when you're parting something off like this, you get down pretty thin. You can finish it off with a saw if you're not confident. Get down pretty thin, make the groove slightly wider than your parting tool so it doesn't jam in there. So sort of do a width and then move over a quarter, just so it's a little bit wider. And when you're parting off, if you go in very slightly to make the bottom slightly, very slightly concave, then you haven't got to worry about it being flat and it won't stand up properly because it wobbles. So a very slight angle, only a few degrees, and make sure you got hold of it when it's ready to fly off. There we go, a little nub to get rid of, and that's it. Right, there's the actual finished goblet standing on the piece of wood that it actually came off. It's come out very well. I kept it quite plain and didn't go too thin on the stem, but I think the proportions are about right. I'll give you a few measurements and then on to the next project. Now then, it measures a fraction over 6.5 inches high, which is nearly 170 mil. The bowl itself, the cup, is 65 mil. It just made the 50 mil wide, so I'm quite pleased about that. And the actual rim is, near as I can see, 3 mil. and that's it. Another little project for you to have a go at. The main thing is treat it like a bowl, but just got to be more careful because the sides are a lot closer together. Okay, the next project's going to be, I think, a little lidded box. Now this lidded box, I was going to do it out of this round because it's quite a bit higher than the plank that I've got, but I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to ignore that, and I'm going to stick with this and try and make one out of this. Now it won't be a matching grain, I'll have to make the lid out of a separate piece, but I might make a sort of lid that sits inside rather than fit over the edge, but that's something for me to think about until I do the next one. Okay, see you all soon then, I hope. Please like, share and subscribe, and bye for now.